It was Tuesday, April 5th, 1994. Were you alive when the news broke that Kurt Cobain had died? If so, do you remember where you were? Do you remember what you were thinking when this story broke? I want to go over today some of the biggest breaking news moments for celebrity deaths. And Kurt Cobain is one of them. And this is absolutely bizarre, the way this coverage went when Kurt Cobain died. Also, we'll go over Chris Farley, Tupac Shakur, Elvis Presley. How was it all treated in the news at that time, and what was the reaction? Let me know what you think about each and every one of these, and what your most memorable moment was when it comes down to breaking news a celebrity had passed. Which one shocked you the most? This was what happened in 1994 when Kurt Cobain died. And this news outlet, they kind of go with this thing. They're like, kids are really upset,
But many of the older generation just don't get it. They don't understand why so many people are so moved by Cobain's sudden death. Almost John Sharifi continues our Team 4 coverage. He heard from people today who have differing views on Kurt Cobain.
What a weird thing to get the other side on. Like, well, wait a second. Not everybody was upset about this. Some parents just don't understand. Going, what? Why would you both sides a celebrity death?
Listen to the music.
It's a huge loss. It's, I think in a couple years, time will tell, but it could be, this generation's John Lennon.
Man, how prescient was that? I mean, that guy knew in the moment. He's like, this could be a really big deal. This could be this generation's John Lennon. Do you think it is? I think it is. I think Kurt Cobain was that generation's John Lennon. And I remember exactly where I was when news stories like this started breaking.
Is Kurt Cobain another John Lennon? All you need is love. To many, there's no comparison. Did you relate to his music?
Not particularly, and I don't.
The guy just died. The guy just died. Why would you go? Let's go find some people who didn't like Kurt Cobain. What did you think? I thought he sucked, honestly.
I think I would, at least in my generation, compare him to John Lennon. Difference in generations.
Difference in generations. Difference in message, too.
Lennon's message of peace, love, hope contrasts with Cobain's message of anger, despair. So you understood the words and the music and all that?
It's kind of hard to understand, but
Many of the older generation, Cobain's music hits a sour note.
I mean, why would you go get these folks who, what's your reaction to the death of this mega popular celebrity superstar? I didn't think they were very good. It just seems so weird.
Some people don't understand why the media has glorified a man who did drugs and ultimately shot himself. Try to explain that to this homeless man.
I mean, man, the man's got it made.
Who panhandles for a living.
I know who he is. He's got Seattle at his feet, got money, he's got everything going, and he does that. And I dug his music. I'm disappointed.
So was 11-year-old.
Went to a homeless person. Hobo Joe, what did you think about the death of Kurt Cobain? He had it all, and I even liked his music. What is there to be upset about? Now let's go to the little kid.
Old Brett Greenbaum, who will miss Cobain and his music.
Yeah. Because in a lot of bands, it's sometimes the whole band that makes the music, and it's sometimes just the singer. And for Nirvana, it's kind of just singer.
Ooh, Dave Grohl. This is brutal, man. This is a brutal experience. And there was a lot of reports like this at the time that were super critical of Kurt Cobain when they were covering his death.
Cobain touched a nerve in millions of young people.
And now everybody's awash in this grief and agony. And
Tonight, they're feeling pain, while another generation tries to understand.
Maybe there's a generation gap, but
John Sharifi, Como News 4.
There's just something so weird about the fact that a celebrity dies and they're like, now with the other side, let's go to this right here. I don't know. Maybe it was a generational divide. Maybe. I don't know. I do remember this being a huge death in my life in terms of celebrities and just the impact that it had. And I'm talking about the crocodile hunter. Do you remember this? Oh, man.
Australian crocodile hunter Steve Irwin has died during a diving expedition near Port Douglas in Australia.
Well, it's reported the environmentalist was killed after being stabbed by a stingray barb in the chest while filming an underwater documentary on the Great Barrier Reef. Steve Irwin, who owned and ran the Australia Zoo with his family, shot to international fame with his Crocodile Hunter television series and films.
I'm Steve Irwin. You might know me as the Crocodile Hunter.
This was classic Steve Irwin, combining a love of the Australian wildlife with a confidence in front of the camera.
Now, the weird thing about Steve Irwin's death was really just the manner in which he died. The fact that the guy died from a stingray and the barb from the stingray like went up into his heart. It made it like almost unbelievable when the first stories were reporting this.
You could match.
Bird-eating spider. Ah! Just kidding.
The so-called crocodile hunter was killed during the underwater filming of his latest documentary. It's believed the 44-year-old father of two died after being stabbed through the chest by a stingray barb. He was taken to the surface by crew members but was pronounced dead shortly afterwards. He was working on the Great Barrier Reef in northeastern Queensland when the accident happened.
Today the world has lost a great wildlife icon, a passionate conservationist, and one of the proudest dads on the planet. He died what he loved doing best.
Oh.
He left this world in a happy and peaceful state of mind. He would have said, Crocs frill.
Oh, man, that was a brutal one. Are you old enough to remember when that news crossed the wires? It was like, damn, the crocodile hunter died. Damn. That's a big loss. This might take many of you back, way back. Tupac Shakur died. And when something was happening in the rap world and the news had to break that this person had died, it still remains this way. But it was always funny because most of the anchors, most of the people who were talking about these figures, they didn't know them. They didn't understand the music or anything. So they kind of sounded out of touch when the reports came through.
Fatal shooting, but he couldn't survive a second. Rap star Tupac Shakur
I mean,
died.
how's that for strange? Let me go back. He survived one fatal shooting, but he couldn't survive a second. What a weird thing, man.
Near fatal shooting,
Brian
but he
Williams.
couldn't survive a second. Rap star Tupac Shakur died last night after a brief life in a rough business. He was 25. Here's NBC's Stan Bernard.
A brief life in a rough business.
Tupac Shakur rode to fame and riches on his often violent vision of life in the inner city. That vision turned out to be prophetic. His own death from multiple gunshot wounds. And his devoted fans who believed his rap litany mirrored their lives are mourning.
I like rappers who are gonna say what they have to say. You know, I really like that. He didn't hold nothing back, he didn't bite his tongue, but like I said, Tupac took things a little bit too far, and that could be the reason why he is where he is right now.
So this is sort of like the rap version of Kurt Cobain dying when Tupac Shakur was shot and killed. And again, just the level of out-of-touchness that the news anchors are displaying is so strange to me. It's awesome.
For many, Shakur's reputation as a gifted rap artist was more important than his history, his rap sheet. When he was shot in this car in Las Vegas, he was out on bail while appealing a 4.5-year sentence for sexual assault. And he had been shot before when someone, he said, tried to rob him. But Shakur, who was also an actor, said in a recent interview, the harsh realities of his life made him different from other performers.
No one alive, I think, with sanity has as much life experience to draw from. And I think that's the only thing that breaks me apart from the pack.
And his early death underlines another terrible reality, the early mortality of black men.
A lot of us are still trying to figure out who we are, and when you have to try to figure out who you are inside of a public limelight the way he did, it's very...
You recognize him? Kevin Powell, he ended up on The Real World.
Very difficult.
It seems the rain will never let up. I try to keep my head up and still keep from getting wetter.
Tupac Shakur, perhaps personified by the words thug life tattooed on his stomach, said his success was due to his life and his career being so closely intertwined.
It ain't no hope for the future.
Stan Bernard, NBC News, New York.
Man, his life perhaps personified by thug life tattoos. This is another big one, and I think there's a lot of women in their 30s or maybe early 40s who will really attach to this one. This is what went down when news broke that Anna Nicole Smith had died. Again, we're going to get into Elvis Presley, the announcement of his death on the news, John Lennon, Jim Morrison, Chris Farley, but let's go to Anna Nicole Smith now.
Well, there's breaking news now on Fox News Channel. Fox News has just confirmed that Anna Nicole Smith has died. It was 2 o'clock this afternoon when authorities say they found her in her hotel room at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida, very near the Dade and Broward County lines. She was rushed almost immediately to a medical center in Hollywood, Florida, at which point there were great concerns about her condition. She was born Vicki Lynn Hogan in Houston, Texas on November the 27th of 1968. She was married and more recently has had a child. She had a little girl just a few months ago.
By the way, when you hear this kind of stuff after a celebrity has died, I've worked in newsrooms on stuff like this before. They prepare all of these sort of scripts for the instant obits that they read on TV. And unless somebody is the portrait of health and there's nobody out there that would ever guess that they would die anytime soon, they've got it pre-written for them. And they definitely, I'm telling you, having worked in the industry for a long time, they definitely had one written for Anna Nicole Smith. In this case, on Fox News, Shepard Smith was reading it.
Hospital in the Bahamas. Her older son came to visit her, and while he was there, he died. And varying accounts of how that happened, and there are lawsuits that have been filed and an investigation underway. But today, Anna Nicole Smith, she was photographed as recently as yesterday at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida. Today, found unresponsive in her hotel room, and now Fox News has confirmed through her lawyer, Anna Nicole Smith is dead.
So that was a big moment for some people, but for everybody in the world, those of you who are old enough to have been alive through it, Elvis Presley's death has to be one of the biggest. I mean, this was huge news, and fans were freaking out. They went over to the Elvis Presley estate in Memphis, and they were outside the gates of his house, and it was just an ordeal. This is how some of the reporting went.
Good evening. Elvis Presley died today. He was 42. Apparently it was a heart attack. He was found at his home in Memphis, not breathing. His road manager tried to revive him. He failed. A hospital tried to revive him. It failed. His doctor pronounced him dead at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Brutal!
The end at an early age of one of the two most spectacular careers in the history of American entertainment, the other being Frank Sinatra's. Long after he became an institution, here was how Presley looked and sounded on an NBC television special 4 seasons ago. Presley was very nearly at the peak of his career when he was...
It's so weird that some of these reporters back in this day were kind of heartless and callous about the way they would report this stuff. They tried to revive him. They failed. They brought him to the hospital. They tried to save him. They failed. Just very blunt reporting.
Drafted into the Army. That was 1958. Here he's arriving for a tour of duty in Germany, an enlisted man driving a Jeep. He could have gone into what they call special services and avoided the kind of time put in by ordinary soldiers, but Presley didn't. Actually, he trained as a tank man. He sold records in the multiples of millions, made millions, bought a string of Cadillacs, one after another, gave away a string of Cadillacs to people he liked, and along the way he was married in 1967 to Priscilla Ann Beaulieu. The very symbol of sex for all of the millions or hundreds of thousands of teenagers was married only once, and then relatively late.
So strange.
The couple had one child, a daughter. The marriage did not last very long. It ended in divorce.
Good God, man. It sounded like that guy wasn't a big fan. His marriage was miserable and unsuccessful, and it ended in divorce. It didn't even last that long. This is what it sounded like on ESPN. And I was actually in the newsroom of the Chicago Tribune when this news broke that Michael Jackson, the controversial, yes, but otherwise widely celebrated king of pop, Michael Jackson was dead.
We're getting some breaking news coming into the situation right now from about Michael Jackson, the king of pop.
Watch this progress.
50 years old. Let's go to Deborah Farrick. She's working the story for us. What are we picking up, Deb?
Well, Wolf, here's what we can tell you. This is what's being reported by KTLA. Apparently, Michael Jackson suffered cardiac arrest this afternoon. He was rushed to UCLA Medical Center.
At 12:21 this afternoon, the Los Angeles
911
operators took a call in regards to a need for a medical emergency at the 100 block of Candlewood Drive, which is in West Los Angeles. When the paramedics got on scene, they treated the patient and then immediately transported the patient
and then now to the next
UCLA.
step.
We just talked to Brian Oxman. He is the family attorney for the Jackson, and he says that according to Randy Jackson, Michael Jackson's brother, Michael Jackson collapsed in his home in West Los Angeles this morning. And they called paramedics. He says that the family is either at UCLA Medical Center or en route to UCLA Medical Center.
CNN sources are now saying, multiple sources, that Michael Jackson is in a coma at UCLA Medical Center, suffered from cardiac arrest, and is now in a coma.
I mean, think about this. In real time, we literally went from, hey, reports are that Michael Jackson collapsed at his house. Reports are that he's on the way to the hospital. Reports are that he's hospitalized. Reports are he's in a coma.
The aerials that you're showing on air, and you see the number of people that have already gathered outside the hospital. If that isn't testament to the star power of Michael Jackson, I don't know what is.
And we're just getting this in right now, and it's very, very sad news. Jim Moret, and to all of our viewers, both the Los Angeles Times and CBS News are both now reporting that Michael Jackson has died. Now, CNN has not confirmed that, but the LA Times and CBS News are reporting that Michael Jackson, 50 years old, the king of pop, has died. A very, very sad moment.
That one was strange because it played out in real time on not just CNN, but in front of all of our eyes. And as I go through all of these, let me know if you remember these moments. Or again, what the craziest breaking news story that you were shocked by was. What's the celebrity where you were walking by a television and you saw they died and your jaw just hit the floor? Tell me about that experience. This was a huge story, obviously. December 8th, 1980. And in this case, it wasn't Kurt Cobain. It was the one all of those old people who didn't like Kurt Cobain were comparing to it. It was the death of John Lennon.
Former Beatle John Lennon is dead. He was shot a short time ago outside his Manhattan apartment building. He died at Roosevelt Hospital. Police have a suspect in custody.
Former Beatle John Lennon murdered in New York.
This was huge news.
And they went inside the gate there, and then all of a sudden they heard 5-6 shots, and that was it.
4 cops pulled John Lennon out and put him into the back of a police car, and his mouth, he was bleeding from his mouth, and it was a terrible sight.
And during the day, this afternoon, before the rain began, a crowd of as many as 2,000 people came out here.
Police speculate that Chapman arrived in New York last week. He had begun to stalk Lennon from his room here at the West 63rd Street Y.
Yoko Ono released a statement tonight. She says that she told their 5-year-old son, Sean, what happened and took him to the spot where John lay after he was shot.
John Lennon's ashes will be buried tomorrow in a secret location. After his body was cremated yesterday in Hartsdale, the ashes were given to Yoko Ono.
Good evening. The vigil goes on at the Dakota Apartments, the place where John Lennon was killed and where his family still lives. Several people standing in the...
They had lots of footage when somebody of this magnitude died, of the celebrity magnitude of a John Lennon, of the fans going to the site and putting down wreaths and flowers and all sorts of other things in memory of that celebrity. There was a lot of counterculture type figures too. This is how it all broke. This was on CBS, I believe. The death of Jim Morrison, singer of The Doors.
The death of another rock musician was disclosed today. Jim Morrison, 27 years old, lead singer of The Doors. His manager said Morrison died 6 days ago in Paris, either of a heart attack or pneumonia. but the death was kept secret to avoid a sensation. He was buried in Paris in the same cemetery where Balzac and other French immortals lie.
Who? And finally, we go to Chris Farley. The actor-comedian died of an OD, and the news was all over this. And it's weird when a comedic actor dies because they just play a whole bunch of funny clips from all the funny movies they were in, even though they just died. It's sort of a strange thing.
Chris was many things: talented, funny, gentle, and kind. Every day of his life was devoted to entertaining others.
His physical humor found him fame on the small screen with Saturday Night Live.
Pump up the jam.
Yes, pump up the jam, they will.
And that's when Chris Farley's career took off to new heights. Among his many movie credits, Tommy Boy and Black Sheep.
Hey, there's even a fridge.
From the small screen to the big screen, Farley never forgot his roots.
Come on, Badgers.
He cheered his hometown college team on to victory at the Rose Bowl, and he came home often to visit with family and friends.
He's always smiling, you know, and you know he's a regular person. He gets down like everybody does, but you know he tries to make the people that he's with feel good about themselves.
He was a great person, he really was.
It's memories like those that will continue to live on in the hearts of family, friends, and fans of Chris Farley. Tammy Schmidt, 27 News.
So that was just one of the many reports after the death of Chris Farley. Now, which ones did I miss here? You know, what do you think were the biggest moments where you had some breaking news that a celebrity had died? Which moment had the biggest impact on your life? Let me know which one you think sticks with you the most. Put your comments below, and I'll be reading those as always. I appreciate you watching this video. If you're new around here, at facebook.com/thenewsjunkie, hit that follow button. Over at youtube.com/thenewsjunkie, hit subscribe. I appreciate you watching this video, and if you want more like this, just subscribe or follow, and you'll get new videos all the time on this channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again real soon.